Hello, everyone, and thank you for spending your afternoon with us. You're joining MP Wired for HR for a webinar on the payroll customer service nightmare, why it's broken, and how to fix it. I'm Katie Kreider, and here at MP, we're the team that picks up the phone, solves the hard problems, and actually makes HR and payroll work the way it should. We combine cutting edge technology with real human expertise, certified HR pros, payroll specialists, compliance needs, the fun kind, and all working together to keep your business moving forward. Whether it's payroll processing, HR support, compliance headaches, employee management, or proactive strategies you didn't even know you needed, we've got you. Bottom line, we help you anticipate, not scramble. We help you grow, not just survive. And we make sure you're wired for what's next in your business. At MP, we're the team that picks up the phone, solves the hard problems, and actually makes HR and payroll work the way it should. I'm thrilled to introduce your expert for today's webinar, Jen Reese. Jen is the Chief Operating Officer at MP with 25 years plus of experience leading service, implementation, and HR teams. She holds a business management degree and has driven MP's NPS score to an industry-leading 74 through her focus on exceptional client and customer service. If you didn't know, that score is incredible. So just a few other housekeeping things to go over here quick. If you would like to submit a question during the program, please use the Q&A feature at the bottom of the screen, and we will be sending out the recording and the presentation slides this afternoon. So with all of that, I'm going to hand it over to Jen.
Great. Thanks, Katie. Thanks so much for the intro, and thanks to all of you for being here. I did want to show you my face and that I am a real person. I do talk with my hands, and so that I'm not distracting, I am going to go off camera. But please engage through the chat. We will continually be monitoring the chat for your questions and look forward to answering those. So today we're going to be touching on a few things: the common flaws in the cost of poor customer service, case studies, the MP difference, and we're also going to do a Q&A. So if you've ever sat on hold for 45 minutes just trying to fix a payroll mistake or make an update to your payroll, or worse, gotten the wrong answer that led to mistakes, you know why this conversation is important. Payroll and HR support isn't supposed to feel like a second full-time job. But for too many business owners, HR leaders, payroll contacts, that's exactly what it's become. And so here's what we're going to unpack today: the common flaws in payroll and HR customer service. So let's talk about some of the big landmines. First, you're stuck with a generic 800 number where nobody knows your name or your business. So you've got limited personalization in your support, and you often run into difficulty getting your issues addressed. You don't get a dedicated support contact, so every call starts from scratch and is worked from a script. Additionally, the person that you're talking to isn't thinking about you when new functionality rolls out in the system that you're using, and that it could benefit your company, maybe reduce the time that you're spending on onboarding, for instance. They don't know your account well, so they're not able to let you know that those changes have come in. You also are getting delayed response time and inconsistent support. So your responses might take a day instead of a couple of hours. You also might be getting different answers to the same questions depending on who you get in the queue. If your payroll support feels like a game of roulette every time you call, that's not normal, and it's definitely not acceptable. There are a lot of hidden costs due to poor customer service, and we're going to hit on a few of those. First is the financial implications. Errors that can cause incorrect payments to your employees, and sometimes funds that you can't recoup. Errors that lead to late tax filing or tax payments that can lead to penalties with the taxing agencies, as well as increased expenses that come from starting with employee turnover and dissatisfaction. Employees know when their payroll is incorrect. They know when their PTO accruals are incorrect. They really feel it when their benefits are not active timely. And these things, they're personal. It's personal to your employees. Their rent or their mortgage is due, and that paycheck wasn't right. It's personal to them. They're planning the spring break trip with their family, and they need to know how much PTO they're going to have at a certain time, and it's incorrect. It's personal to them because they can't finish their planning. They have a sick child and they're taking their child to the doctor. And when they get there, they find out that their benefits aren't active. Those things are detrimental to your employees. It's personal to them. It leads to dissatisfaction, loss of productivity, and it hurts morale, all of which cost you financially as a business. As I just mentioned, there's the loss of productivity. The loss of productivity is widespread. Not only do your employees become less productive because they're taking time out of their day to talk to you and probably talk to their peers about what's gone wrong. After they talk to you, you've spent time talking with them, and now you are on the phone calling that 1-800 number, hoping that you get someone who can help you, and really chasing down answers to your questions, figuring out how to fix whatever's incorrect. That's taking away from the time that you can spend working on things that are going to grow your business. I also mentioned one of the costs being morale nosedives. As I mentioned above, the mistakes that impact the employees are personal. And especially when it's a repeated mistake or they've had multiple mistakes, it starts to impact how an employee views your company. I say this all the time. Your employees don't see your payroll provider as the team that made the mistake. They see it as your company. And so now they are starting to question, is this the right place for me? Am I happy here? And when that happens and morale nosedives, your employees become less productive. It's just a domino effect. And these are all costs that are associated with poor customer service. So the bottom line is bad service doesn't just cost you, it bleeds you slowly, and you don't always realize it until the damage is done. I've got a few really quick real world examples. I'm going to start with a payroll example and what happens when you don't have a dedicated contact. So I had a client who was calling in at their past provider to run their weekly payroll. And with their weekly payroll, they had a monthly commission check. Because they called in and got someone who was unfamiliar with their account, they had the commissions added to their monthly commissions added to their weekly check, when those are usually a separate check taxed at a monthly frequency. So when the client got their checks, everybody had paid more tax than they were expecting. They didn't get the second check. Net pays were lower, which was, of course, going to impact their employees once they handed out those checks. So for the client, what they had to do was the next day they're calling back into that call center to make corrections. They have to re-explain what happened, why it was wrong, and then work with someone who doesn't know their account to try and fix the mistake. And again, we're hoping that it's fixed correctly and with the least impact to their employees. And again, it was somebody trying to do their best to run the payroll the way the client wanted them to run it. Unfortunately, because they didn't know their account, they made mistakes. And those mistakes cost the client some time and potentially lost wages with their employees. Another example is around taxes. And I know for me, I never want to hear from the tax agencies. I like to keep those guys away from me and away from our clients. But we see this all the time. A client will have employees set up in the wrong states, especially where you have states that are really close together and people can go right over the border to work. So, they live on the border of North Carolina and South Carolina, or Massachusetts and Rhode Island. And you end up, because the taxes are set up incorrectly on the employee pays more taxes or pays taxes to one state and not to another. And now they're going to file their annual taxes at the end of the year. And all of a sudden, we've got 3 or 4 quarters worth of incorrect taxes. And now there are amended returns. There are late payments to one tax agency while you're waiting for another tax agency to send you a refund. And I'm sure everybody knows tax agencies don't move very quickly all the time. So this could go on for months. And again, it's time that you are spending chasing down answers, making sure that things get corrected, waiting for money to get back to you. And by the way, your employee was delayed in being able to file their taxes at the end of the year because they had to wait for an amended W-2. So those are two real life examples. And one that I don't have up here that I thought I would share is really from an HR perspective. So if you don't have a dedicated HR support representative and you're just calling into a 1-800 number, or perhaps you're chatting into a group and not to a dedicated rep, you can certainly run into issues there too. So an example that we had recently is we had a client who was working with their provider, and they had an employee who was constantly late to work. They called into their support queue for HR support to get a course of action. And the course of action that they got was an accurate course of action if they had never had this issue before. But unfortunately, just a month earlier, they had had another employee who was also consistently late to work. And the course of action that the representative gave them over the phone was not consistent with how they had handled the issue just a month earlier. And so now what was a simple tardy issue that you were trying to address, employee performance management, now the employee is claiming that you were inconsistent with them. And so now our client is trying to navigate not only a tardy issue, but also how to backpedal from having an inconsistent process for how they were handling their tardies. And all of these scenarios that I just mentioned, they're not due to, a complicated situation or a client being difficult. These are examples of everyday payroll and HR matters that you should be able to lean on your service provider to help you navigate. So in those examples, the clients just got stuck with a system where service was following a script and it wasn't personal. So I want to talk a little bit about the MP difference. And I've talked a lot about dedicated service, and I want to walk you through our dedicated support model for your business. Our dedicated support model starts with discovery and handoff with your sales process. So when you are meeting with a member of our sales team, they are going to get to know your business and understand how you operate and what challenges you encounter in the day-to-day running of your business and the day-to-day running of your payroll. They're going to transfer that learning to our implementation team. And our implementation team is going to spend a little bit more time getting to know you and your business and tailoring your setup. So tailoring the technology and the HR services to the needs of your business. From there, we're also going to get you set up with a dedicated team. So you have a dedicated team in implementation. You also have a dedicated team once you are finished with implementation and you move to service. And that team knows your business on a deeper level. It allows them to anticipate your needs, suggest improvements to processes along the way. For instance, you have a seasonal staff, and at the end of the season, you need to deactivate all of your seasonal employees. That dedicated support can not only remind you that it's the end of the season, let's get those employees deactivated in the system, but they can provide you with tools that will help you expedite that process rather than going through manually keying one by one. Additionally, with that dedicated support comes proactive support. And a really great example of this is you want to go in and make updates to your PTO accrual policy. One of the things that is really important is that whatever updates we make in the system, that your handbook, your HR handbook, also coincides with them. And with dedicated support, that proactive conversation of let's make these updates in the system, but let's also make sure that we've got them updated in your handbook before we make them live, before we roll them out to your team. So it's really about not just setting you up in the system, not just and not just being there to answer your questions, but being there to ensure that you're set up in a way that is going to allow you to avoid mistakes, avoid pitfalls, and hopefully be proactive in your business. I talked a lot about the support. The other piece of that support comes with the technology. And here at MP, we also partner that service with a technology that's really easy to use. In just a couple of clicks, you can process payroll. We have workflows that reduce administrative burdens, employee self-service, where employees can get pay stubs from their phone and they can easily manage their benefits. We have resources that will help you streamline your open enrollment options. And best of all, as I mentioned earlier, that technology is backed by a dedicated support person. If you've ever, I apologize, I've got a couple of client testimonials here in the slides that you will get a chance to see after we send the slides out to you. And these are just testimonials from our clients that highlight how MP has helped them and worked with them and supported them in their payroll and HR processing. If you've ever thought there's got to be a better way, you're absolutely right. And you deserve a partner that doesn't just show up for the sale, they show up every time you need them. With that, I would love to answer any questions that you might have.
So much, Jen. We did get one question in. What is a typical SAL and what can clients expect for wait times?
Sure. So here at MP, I'll address that in two pieces. One is from a wait time. If you're calling in to talk to us, we answer our phones very quickly. I would say there are less than 5% of our calls that go to voicemail. If you are sending us an email or you do leave a voicemail for urgent matters, and I'll tell you what an urgent matter is in just a moment, you can expect a 2-hour response time. So urgent matter is going to be, I need to process my payroll today. My employees aren't able to clock in. My employee doesn't see their direct deposit. Those we would consider urgent matters, and we have a 2-hour response window for those. Things that are maybe non-urgent, so they're not directly impacted to getting payroll processed today. Perhaps I mentioned earlier you want to update your PTO accruals for your new fiscal year that starts in June. You can expect a 4-hour response time from us where we'll absolutely acknowledge your email and either address it right away or set up time for us to get together to talk through what we need to do to make the updates that you're looking for in the system and make sure that they're done prior to your fiscal year starting. So our SLAs, 2 hours for urgent items, 4 hours for non-urgent items, and you have a dedicated rep, so you're not sitting in a call queue waiting on hold.
Any other questions? We didn't get any other questions come in, so I can go ahead and wrap us up. If you would happen to have any questions, please feel free to reach out. You will be getting a follow-up email, so feel free to reach out and we can touch base. But if that's all we've got, thank you, Jen. We want to thank you all for joining us too. If there is one thing you're walking away with, we hope that you don't have to accept poor payroll and HR support as the norm. There is a better way, and whether you're currently struggling with long hold times, error-prone service, or feeling like a number on a spreadsheet, you deserve a partner that actually shows up. If anything we covered today hits a little too close to home, we'd love to help. Reach out to our team at MP. No pressure, no pushy sales pitch, just a conversation about how to fix what's not working. I did drop a post-webinar survey into the chat, so if you just take a few minutes and just fill that out, also lets us know what you're struggling with directly. Thanks for spending time with us today. The slides and the recording will be sent out to you this afternoon. We'll see you next time, and thank you all for joining.